Ila Paliwal, welcome to ITV Gold. I hope you're doing well today.
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're so excited to have you here with us to talk to you about music, your current projects, and so much more. So let's dig right into it. Before I ask you about your music journey and a lot more about your history in music, we have to discuss your second album that has just been released. Ila, The Earth Symphony is the name of your new album, and it's already been super successful. Everyone is super excited about it. So how are you feeling after its release?
Well, I'm very, very happy and elated because I really worked hard on this project for almost 2.5 years, and there were a lot of pieces in the puzzle, and they all came together, and people have given it so much love and appreciation, and I'm very thankful and very happy.
Yes, of course. And just your song, Vande Mataram, has over 600,000 views on YouTube, along with other songs that have a lot of features that are coming in. Ila, what was so special about this album that inspired you to create something that is an ode to Mother Nature? And how are you feeling about how the entire product has come out?
Yeah, so, I was, since my childhood, I was very inspired by Indian ancient scriptures and the wisdom that they have. And I grew up listening to a lot of classical music, a lot of folk music, and my parents, both of them were scholars, so I had that atmosphere at home. And nature was always part of that musical journey that I kind of grew up with. So I was thinking for a long time to do an album to pay tribute to our beautiful planet Earth, the amazing forests that we have around the world, and the rivers, the space, the mountains, everything. So, and then Vande Mataram, if you go through the lyrics, you will realize that it's not just describing, the lyrics don't just describe the beauty of landscape of India, but also the Mother Nature. So it was a natural fit for this album, and that's how it came around. It took a lot of research and time, but I'm so happy that people loved it.
And you have a Grammy award-winning music producer, Mr. Rick H, on it, as well as you have 150 artists that collaborated with you for this album. Could you take me through that process of having such a huge collaboration? How did you manage to make it happen? And what do you have to say about your amazing producer?
Well, Ricky and I met a few years ago, and if people don't know, he's an environmentalist, and he only makes music on environment-related issues. So when I thought of this album, my natural, direction was to involve him immediately, and I did. And we thought about it, brainstormed it. And for Vande Mataram, we wanted to, if you know the history of Indian struggle and, freedom fighters used to be prohibited from singing this phrase. And so after many years, I wanted to bring the world together. And that's how I took the whole crew to London. We hired the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, the legendary orchestra. And then we hired iconic Abbey Road Studios to record Vande Mataram with all of them. So it was really incredible experience. And of course, Ricky and I are very similar in terms of our passion and excitement to the project. So it worked beautifully.
And how was it working with artists that were not Indian and had to say lyrics that were in Sanskrit?
Yeah, so it was really heartening when we were recording in London, and the choir, Vox Symphony choir, was trying to sing Vande Mataram. So we explained. It was really goosebump moments that time because I was explaining them how to correctly pronounce Vande Mataram, and even explaining the meaning of this whole, the lyrics as well as the depth behind these lyrics and what this Vande Mataram song means to Indians all over the world. It was quite extraordinary.
Ila, what are some of your hopes with this amazing album? I know you just released it, so people are just finding out about it. They're listening to it. The beautiful songs. What do you hope it inspires in people?
So when I started thinking about this album, pandemic or COVID-19 was nowhere to be heard of or seen, or we had no idea. But I think, it's quite ironic that I released at a time when we are globally struggling with this crazy pandemic. And I hope people would, understand that we only have one planet Earth, and we do need to take care of it. We need to be very conscious, species on this planet, because we are not the only one. We are among millions of species on this planet, and everybody has equal right on this planet.
Yeah.
So we need to, I hope people will learn to consume less, be a little bit more conscious consumer of every resource that has been provided by the nature, maintain the distance between the wildlife and, humans,
Right.
as nature has intended us to do. So I think it's just a respect towards nature and looking inward what we can do to change our way of life. So I hope people will take a moment, take a pause, and think about it.
Definitely.
Think about planet Earth.
Definitely. I think the album truly celebrates coexistence, which is such an amazing concept, especially with everything that's happening around COVID. What are some of the tracks that have spoken to you the most out of your album?
It's the whole album is beautiful, and it has, songs for every age group. But for me, a special one is Shiva. Because Shiva, as you know, in our Hindu mythology, it talks about 5 elements of nature. So we as humans are miniature of nature, and so I think that's very important for me. And for that, we actually engaged Soweto Gospel Choir, which is 3-time Grammy Award winner,
Wow.
and they have used this, African proverb similar to, praising the earth and nature and planet. So I think that is one of the very special songs for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were some of your challenges making this album? Was it a lot to do with the amount of artists and the amount of orchestra that was involved?
Of course, challenges are always there when when the production is so ambitious and large and huge in terms of people's timing, getting all the dates from everybody, recording dates, engineers' dates, and so fortunately we were able to record most of it last year itself before COVID hit. But I did have plans to make some more music videos, just like Vande Mataram this year, which I did not do. Instead, we were able to actually use the technology during COVID times to do all the mixing and mastering, which I would have preferred to be in the studios with the engineers, but that obviously was not possible.
Yeah.
And then besides that, we are also I produced one virtual concert for the whole album, which I plan to stream sometime mid-September or third week of September. So keep an eye out for that one too. But all in all, COVID did create some challenges, but we kind of pivoted and navigated different route and took advantage of the technology.
Yeah, definitely. I think the digital space is so important right now, and I think you're definitely hitting the mark there, really connecting with your audiences. Ila, at this part, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your own music history and all the amazing works you've done. So just, going into it, one of my questions that I really want to ask you was, you belong to 2 different gharanas, from Gwalior Gharana to Jaipur Gharana. You've had a really strong upbringing with Indian classical music. What were some of your earliest inspirations of music? What were some of the earliest memories you remember where you really truly had to connect with music?
Yeah, so, I grew up in a very small town called Agra. That's where the Taj Mahal is. And when I was growing up, we really didn't have television. We had very few, radio stations where my mother will, every morning she will turn on Vivid Bharati and, classical music will play. So, so that was always in the background. My parents were both patrons of culture and art and poetry, so I was surrounded by all that. And Agra being a very historic city, we used to have all-night classical music concerts. And when I was very young, I wasn't very interested like any other child, but my parents would make sure that I go with them, and we will just sit through the night. Sometimes I would be, sleepy or whatever. But, somehow in my psyche, I started absorbing all the music. And so that's how I started, interest in music. And then we used to have teachers come home to teach me sitar, Kathak dancing, vocal singing. And as I grew up around 12 or 13, I kind of started, gravitating more towards singing than any other thing. And I found very amazing Guruji, Pandit Sitaram Devariji, and he was from Gwalior Gharana. So I learned from him, and that's how my musical journey started. Yeah.
What would you say were some of the key learnings that you learned from being from a gharana? Because that's quite an honor when you're a part of a musical gharana. You get to learn a lot. What are some of those, learnings that you still keep very close to your heart?
Yeah, so all my gurus, initially it was Gwalior Gharana, but as I moved out of India, I got in touch with the gurus from Jaipur Gharana. But they all, one thing they all instilled in me, that you learn from everywhere, but you try to find your own voice, your own sound. And that's what matters. Gharana is not really so important, so long you are able to get your message out in your own sound, in your own voice. So I think that was the constant, advice from all my gurus.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of music moves you, Ila? What kind of music do you think drives that force inside of you?
I think the lyrics have to be very, very poignant. I think lyrics are important, and I still gravitate towards the ancient folk songs, and where they have so much wisdom to teach everyday life lessons. I think that kind of music really touches my heart. Lyrics are important. Ghazals are very nice, and folk songs are beautiful. Bhajans, some of the bhajans and classical compositions are just incredibly, heart-moving.
Yes, you have sort of amalgamated a lot of Western aesthetics into your music, and I want to get to Navratna very soon as well. But why did you prefer to sort of have that infused style of music, and what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so I always feel, as you know, Indian classical music is very melodic. It's really very close to your heart, and sometimes you really want to bring that grandeur to it that it deserves. So that was always been my passion to bring these beautiful melodies from Indian classical music, and then just surround them with Western orchestration, which is so harmonic, and so many layers are there, and it just brings it alive. And I think it's a little bit more appealing to even younger generation or different people who don't know the language for sure, but the music can really move them. But the beauty is that, every kind of music has 7 notes. But the magic happens when you mix and match them, and you try different variations, and when the right notes strike, and when the two right notes strike, and they create the magic, and they touch your heart, that's what, as an artist, you want to achieve. So I think that Western orchestration always has been that kind of influence for my thinking.
Yeah, you definitely have the passion for it. This brings me to your first studio album, which I have to ask you about, Navratna, which was proudly produced by none other than the legendary A.R. Rahman. Could you take me through briefly through the process of making that album, and what does that mean for you even now in 2020?
Yeah, so as I told you, I was always inspired by the Indian folk songs and the festivals because I grew up singing those things. I was surrounded by all that. And so for a long time, for even Navratna, I was thinking to do an album for all the festivals of India and bring the, Indian secularism or, secular festivities in limelight. So I thought, okay, maybe we need to do an album with all festivals, but based on classical ragas. So even Christmas song in my album Navratna is based on Bhupali rags because, so we try to make melodies which would, still keep the soul very Indian, but have a more worldwide view to it. And I had written to Mr. Rahman some time ago when I was thinking of this Navratna album, and I said, I'm thinking to do one album on all Indian festivals, including Eid, Christmas, Diwali, and, from all regions of India. And he wrote back to me, he said, this is an amazing idea. It can be a national treasure if we can do it right. And, he right away helped me with the planning of it and everything. And it was incredible to work with him because he's such a humble human being. He can bring the best out of an artist, whoever works for him. So I feel very blessed and fortunate.
What do you think it taught you? Because, your next studio album, you work with a Grammy award-winning producer. Is there a reason you're working with such, amazing, legendary artists?
Well, I think it's just the destiny that I connect with these people, and then we talk about some idea, and suddenly, both of us are thinking the same wavelength, so it works that way. I mean, I don't go look for people, who are only Grammy Award winner or such, I think you need to have the right chemistry and connect at the creative level. And that's what is important to me.
This brings me to a really important question that I love asking, songwriters, singers, producers such as you, which is, in the last couple of years, we've seen this new industry of South Asian American artists really come through in the United States. And they are pursuing Indian arts, they're mixing it with Western aesthetics. What do you have to say about that generation of artists? And do you think they have a lot of space here to truly celebrate their own heritage and their own identity through music?
Oh, yes, I think so. I think the younger generation is even more blessed because they have both the best. They've learned the Western, music, classical music, and they have learned the Indian music, and they can really do wonder and create magic with music of both kinds. So I think they have a great future. The only thing they have to do is believe in themselves and keep practice. I think that still stays true. And don't go for shortcuts, and just have conviction that, if you work hard and produce something that touches people's heart, you will get success in your place in the musical world.
Ila, is it hard being a South Asian American artist in this country right now, in the music world? What is your opinion on that?
I think it's getting better. It has been hard, but I think it is getting better, especially if you are living on either coast, because the people are very international. I have to tell you, I got mail from one of my Jewish friend who's a lawyer who doesn't understand any Hindi, any Sanskrit, and he listened to my album and he gave me names of each song. Shiva, Sadim, or one more song, I forget which one he said. And he explained to me, he said, I didn't understand, but they touched me. And I played it to my other Jewish friends, and they're all going to go and download your album. So I think we have come a long way, and we can see Indian music being presented in beautiful venues like Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, instead of just home basements or in like small gatherings. So I feel it's getting better, and it has a great future.
Wow, and I love that positive attitude towards it. It's so important for us to like explore that and always keep on motivating our own community with it. Ila, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? Where is your music journey taking you, according to you?
Well, I do have lots of ideas that I want to produce in the form of music. I am working on my next project, and that also deals with human emotion. I always like to find topics which connect with people and draw the inspiration from the ancient scriptures in Indian subcontinent or anywhere in the world, basically. But I like to do that. So I don't know what the future will hold, but for me, music is my life, and I would continue to do that.
So are there any projects that are just in the pipeline that we can know about?
Well, it's a little too soon right now. I'm just focusing on the virtual concert that's coming in September, but hopefully in few months I will have some more details. Yeah, but I have written the lyrics and started composing some of the songs, so it's all working. Yeah.
We are coming towards an end of this interview, but I would love to ask you about this virtual concert that's happening in September. What can we know? What can the audience look forward to? And what are you trying to like celebrate through that?
I was all set to launch the album at the Kennedy Center on August 15th, but due to COVID, we had to cancel that plan, and we decided to do a virtual concert. So we are planning to stream it on multiple platforms, sometime mid-September or third week of September. Please be on lookout for it. We have all the artists who have performed on the album and even more. Artists from South Africa, the Soweto Gospel Choir, then we have the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, we have artists from Australia and from New York, Miami, different kind of artists, about 30 or 40 people performing live, and I will be doing the whole album. And we have even used some visual artists like sand artists and speed painters and puppeteers and things like that. So it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful concert, and I'm very excited. It's come out beautiful.
Wow.
So please watch.
It sounds massive, and it sounds so exciting. I feel like you're going to have a festival virtually, pretty much. Thank you so much for being with us on ITV Gold, Ila. I would love for you to give one last message to our audience, perhaps on your album.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, first of all. And for the audience, just please take care of your mental health, your physical health, and listen to the album. Please be more, a conscious consumer, and just enjoy the nature more, and respect our Mother Earth.
Yeah, that is so true. We gotta respect our Mother Earth. Ila, thank you so much for being with us on ITV Gold.